Welcome to the Trust Factor Radio, bringing you interviews and insights to unlock the power of the subconscious mind to create authority, credibility, and trust. With your host, the Authority Architect, and best-selling author, Neil Howe.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is your host, Neil Howe, and today my special guest is Michael Hutchinson, and he helps business owners utilize the power of the internet to increase brand awareness and sales leads. Michael is the owner of Directing Design in Oklahoma City. It is a digital marketing and web application company. His company has been helping small businesses with graphic design, web design, and digital marketing for 19 years. In a world where many companies have had bad experiences with web designers and using the internet as a tool for sales leads, Michael and his team bring clarification and dependability. Well, Michael, it is definitely an area where some people have concern with, lots of people offering services from SEO to SEM to PPC. There's lots of letters going around and a lot of confusion. So let's get some clarification. Michael Hutchinson, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and how you got started in digital marketing.
Okay, well, I'm originally from England. I moved to the United States in '99. Started my company around about 2000, kind of as a creative outlet because I was in a corporate environment that didn't really give me a great deal of flexibility, both in my family life as I was starting a family and in kind of the projects I wanted to do. So I originally got into kind of the graphic side of things because I kind of had a science and art background that was always hard for me to decide between. I always loved science, but I loved fine art. And starting a family, I thought, I've got to do something that actually pays the bills. So design, logos, brochures, stuff like that was kind of the way to go. Then, of course, the internet really took off and people were coming to me about website development. And I'd been learning that through mentorship and through classes and stuff. And that just naturally kind of progressed into my realization that in the Oklahoma market, that they're really kind of a little behind the trend with lots of things, fashion, music, technology. And I realized that lots of people were building websites, but then doing absolutely nothing with them. So it seemed to just be a business owner checking a box like, okay, yeah, I do have a website, so therefore I look professional, but it doesn't actually do a great deal for my business. So we started to delve into what do we do to make people stand out online? How can they come up in searches above their competitors? How can they be more visible? And how can they translate leads into sales and just increase their bottom dollar?
So when you talk about these things right here, having a website just to check a box, is that what you see still pretty often? Like people come to you just saying, listen, I need a website, or my website needs to look prettier without having a strategy behind what the website actually does.
Yeah, that happens a great deal. In fact, we kind of reversed our process in that instead of focusing on selling websites, for lack of a better way of putting it, we wanted to focus on building traffic to websites. And then naturally through that process, we usually have to end up redesigning the website anyway, because it's bad or out of date or not responsive or any number of things that it really needs to be SEO friendly or any number of other things. But there's a lot of our clients are kind of construction based, so roofing companies, heat and air companies, builders, home builders. So they're not the most tech savvy people. And what you see all the time on the news, if there's a big hailstorm, we live in kind of Tornado Alley, so there's all kind of bad weather. So people are having their roofs done all the time. And what the news channels say all the time is when you're verifying the validity of a company, check if they have a local office and check that they have a website. So a business owner is like, oh, wait a minute, I need to have a website so that I have some sort of valid reputation in the local market. But then they're not realizing the power of having a website and actually using it as some sort of a tool for business. So often it takes, a more in-depth conversation, and they're definitely checking off a box. And that's why, like, if I look now, especially in Oklahoma, I could choose any industry. So it could be restaurants, it could be home builders, it could be whatever. And I'll find 10 really bad websites immediately that were built in the 80s or 90s and they've never updated them. So
right, and that's, I'm looking at your services page here on your website, directingdesign.com, and you've really broken it down into 3 different areas, which is brand strategy, the website design or responsive websites, and then the SEO strategy. It's not just having a website and putting it up, which is what it seems that you still find. There's no strategy. So let's talk about that strategy. What is, what is the strategy behind not just having a website, but everything that digital marketing can do for one of those businesses?
Okay, so in a nutshell, the strategy for me and how I might explain it to a business owner is getting them as many loosely qualified leads. I mean, some might be really qualified, but at least people that are looking for what they do for the lowest cost possible. So, if you give me $1, how many leads can I get you for $1 that are people actually looking for what you do? And I think that's the power of digital marketing and the internet is, back in the day, a company would have a set budget and they'd say, okay, well, we're going to do TV, we're going to do radio, we're going to do print, and we're just going to bash people over the head with our message and hope that it sticks with a large enough percentage. But the digital marketing is really more passive than that, in that you're not force-feeding a message to anybody necessarily. You're finding where the audience is, or you're creating a message that the audience is finding themselves for a particular product or service. So the strategy is really, how do we spend your budget to get as many views of your website or particular pages of your website or products for the money that you're willing to spend.
Now, as far as the digital strategy versus, the old kind of strategy with newspapers and radio ads, like you were saying, is it more targeted, and do you have to stay top of mind still by continually advertising?
I think with any form of marketing, this is probably the biggest challenge for companies, is when they come to me for something like SEO, they might think that it's a one-time effort. But as with any marketing, they have to understand that it's a continuous investment, not just of their money, but of their resources. So their staff might be involved, the owner might be involved. They've got to give me feedback. I think it's just that I don't know whether any one form of marketing is necessarily more successful, but the business owner has to realize that it's not something that happens overnight, and they need to continuously invest.
Mm-hmm. A lot of these construction companies might be used to the old way of marketing, and certainly referral marketing and word of mouth marketing has worked for them for many years, which is why maybe they've just got that website and haven't really done much with it. But talk to me about the SEO and what that can do for them and the strategy behind that.
I mean, specifically with home builders, you're right. They do have. It's also like kind of like realtors. They build up a crowd or a fan base, and then they continue to spread their message. However, they do that, whether it's through sending thank you cards or some print or having radio or anything else like that. But one of the things that I've noticed with some of the builders here is, in terms of real estate, Oklahoma doesn't have the same sort of bubble as the East and the West Coast, where there's a lot of investors. And then, we had in the 80s a big crash and a lot of people lost a great deal of money. Oklahoma, in terms of real estate, is a pretty sound investment. And it typically, you see an increase on a yearly basis of the price of property. But what the SEO does for these builders is that as people from other areas of the country realize that Oklahoma is a pretty inexpensive place to buy a really nice house, they wouldn't find any of those houses, or they wouldn't find that information if the builder didn't have some relevancy online, so a website that they could actually find. So I've actually seen builders where they're selling properties to people out of state that haven't even visited, haven't even seen the property. They just see the pictures online, and they make a deal, and then they come into Oklahoma and find that they've got a really luxury house for about $450,000 with a pool, and I mean, the amount of real estate that you can buy for less than $500,000 here is insane. So,
well, I know I'm in Atlanta, and the property value here is pretty high. Maybe not as high as some other places in the country, but yeah, $500,000 isn't going to buy a great deal around here.
No.
But we talked a little bit before the show about, some people coming to you and saying, all right, I need a website and I need to rank for these 5 keywords. These are my top keywords. Is that what a good SEO strategy is?
Not in Oklahoma, no, because the metrics are pretty low. So the conversation usually goes something like, hey, you guys do SEO. Can you get us top in Google for these phrases? And I realized when you're really evaluating expectations, because if I don't meet their expectations, they're not going to continue to do business with me, that really what their meaning is, I want to use my website to create more sales. And so I have to have the conversation that, we might use something like SEO as a backbone to a strategy, but it's not the be all and end all of creating traffic or digital marketing. But the research through doing the SEO might be very valuable to other areas. But metrics are so low in Oklahoma that often Google doesn't even give you decent metrics for any given phrases. And so I have to say, well, if you're selling houses, that's one thing. Your profit margin might be 10 to 15% on a $500,000 house. So the investment of however much you're going to spend a month is well worth it if you sell one house. But if you're selling candy or if you're selling shoes or something else, the fact that only 10 people a month might search for brown leather shoes, Oklahoma City, means that how many of those leads are going to translate into a sale, and how much did you spend on getting those 10 leads? So we have to really evaluate business by business what SEO means to them and what it costs, and if it's even a worthwhile investment.
So what other ways do you have available to you to capture the attention of these people that are looking to buy? So
like I said earlier, trying to evaluate where the buck is best spent. And so looking at, in each given instance, is social media the best platform? Is social media ads, so Facebook ads, are they good for a particular company? So recently, we work with a local heat and air company, and Facebook ads is great for them, especially seasonally. Oklahoma does have a lot of sunshine and a lot of hot weather, but that's great if you're installing air conditioning systems. But then the reverse happens in the winter. We can have some pretty cold winters, so then we'll be doing some sort of marketing about fix your furnace maintenance, replace your furnace, stuff like that. So using social media, using other ads, so Google ads, doing online press releases, things like that. Whatever we can do that uses any kind of digital technologies that create an action, somebody seeing what this company does and calling them, and then just evaluating. So we do monthly reporting, and we either meet with the client if they have time, or we send the report and we can have a conversation. And the monthly report breaks down all of the digital technologies that we're using, whether we thought that it was valuable that month or not valuable, or whether we should switch Facebook to Google ads or vice versa, or whatever. So it's constantly evolving, and of course we don't have any control over what Google decides to do for ranking, and we don't have any control over what Facebook decides to do in terms of relevancy scores and displaying ads. So we just try to pay attention, and if something stops working for whatever reason or becomes more expensive, then we try to find something else that will be successful and maybe less expensive.
So talk to me, the traffic obviously is a big thing. You've got to get the traffic, you've got to grab that attention somehow and drive them to the business website. So talk to me about the design of the website, the content that needs to be put on there, as well as some of the call to action to make that website convert the best possible.
So I think that's about kind of user experience and user interface. Google is changing how they will qualify a website based on how it's built. Is it responsive? So responsive websites aren't really something new, but it's interesting seeing the shift of how many people are visiting websites on phones as opposed to desktops tablets, these kind of things. So we have to make sure that it's user-friendly on those platforms. And also because that's going to be a checkbox for Google. But, even a most recent thing that there was kind of a misconception that you needed a secure website, so an SSL certificate for a website, but only if you actually had transactions. But now that's another checkbox that Google will qualify those over non-secure websites. So just trying to keep watch of trends, and then make sure that the most relevant information is on the homepage. So we kind of treat the homepage, you've got your navigation, and that's how you get to pages, but then you've got visual things, video, in some cases maybe some audio. So having different ways for people that maybe interact with technology differently and feel comfortable, like learning differently. They learn visually, they learn with audio, trying to engage with them to get them to the most relevant areas of the site. And we also, we have quite a lot of clients that we've had them for years, and they understand that, we'll probably do a redesign of the website about every 3 years, and they're comfortable with that investment. So technology is moving so quickly that we have to advise them on what the next thing is, and then just, update them according to that.
Really, I mean, if you want to stay top, and when Google are putting out all these different signals of all these check boxes, like you said, that have to be marked, you really have to keep up and give Google exactly what it is that they are wanting, whether it's site design, user experience, security issues, which are becoming more and more of a problem. So it really does make sense for you as a company to do all these things, rather than finding these people that have had the same website for 10 years and wondering why it is not working so well anymore. Yeah.
And we kind of, whenever you build a relationship, and I think that this is really important, I kind of touched on it before about evaluating and meeting expectations on both sides, so what's our billing like, and when do we expect to get paid, and what do you expect for that money? And, as we kind of go through this process and you build the rapport and the trust with a lot of these companies, they get approached by other technology companies, and sometimes we become the first point for them to just ask questions, like, we've been approached about this. This is, this seems to be the deal. What do you think about it? And often it's good and often it's not. It just depends on the company and the strategy and where they're willing to spend their money. But it's really a great position to be in, where you're kind of a trusted resource. And, even with just like minor updates to sites, we don't nickel and dime people. So they'll call us and say, hey, this is happening with the site. We'll fix it for free often, or we'll add some content for free, or we'll advise them for free. So it's, I think it's really a win-win relationship for them and for us.
Yeah, I think, everything comes down to trust, and people do business with people that they trust, which is why, the show is called The Trust Factor. It's how you're able to gain trust and how you're able to show that trust for the clients through web design and the brand strategy and everything else that you do. It's about having that relationship. But we talked at the very top of the show about this industry. And there's so many people out there that are sending messages all the time. I can do this for $100, but it's all bit part stuff. How do you counter those kind of arguments?
Usually I don't argue. So I'll give you an example. There's a pretty big home show here in Oklahoma City called The Parade of Homes. And my company used to do the magazine for it until it became kind of a local newspaper took it over, and they have all these printing facilities and stuff, so there was no way we could really compete. But during that process, we would have a proofing day, and builders would come in and they'd check that their ads were correct, and they'd check that their listings were correct. And they'd say, oh, you guys do websites too? And we'd say, yeah. And they'd ask, the big question, how much does a website cost? And so the easy thing to say to builders is, how much does a house cost? Mm-hmm. I mean, you can't tell me unless I tell you what I want the house to do, or how many rooms I want, or garages or whatever. So, but often builders would say, well, I have my friend's cousin can build us a website for $200 or $250. And so I wouldn't argue the point. I'd just say, oh, that's great. You should try that. And then they do. And then usually they come back having spent $250 more than they needed to, because then they're going to spend whatever I charge. do it right. And then they, as we talked about trust. As you build the trust, they realize that I'm not trying to rip them off, and I'm going to do what I've told them what I'm going to do, and we're going to build a strategy if that's what they want, and we're going to work with them on that. And so they usually just end up spending the little amount on top of I would say that we charge competitively, so a moderate amount. So they just end up spending more.
Right. And, one of the articles from your website that pops up right away is the question, what is a reasonable amount to pay for a basic website?
Yeah.
And that is the answer. It all depends. The answer that everybody likes to hear, right? It depends.
Yeah, well, I think with anything, if I'm going to do a bathroom remodel, I'll go back to the construction industry. I'll call several companies and I'll meet with them and I'll see what they say. And I know a little bit about materials and remodeling and stuff that I don't think that the wool will be pulled over my eyes. But I think if you get a few bids, you'll see you're going to have a low one, you're going to have a high one, you're going to have some in between, and you should go with your gut on who you feel comfortable with, because it's a relationship. But I think we're highly competitive in what we charge, and we're usually pretty flexible too. I mean, we kind of have a base where we say, if somebody calls me and says, hey, I want a website, I'll say, this is our base. Does that seem reasonable? And obviously, if they say no, it's not going to be a good fit. But often it's really difficult, because sometimes people will come to you and they say, I just want a one-page website. But because we use content management systems now, it doesn't make any difference if the site is 1 page or 10. And once we've installed the system and customized it, the design and stuff, it's about the same amount of work, apart from when it comes to the content. So we'll often be flexible and just say, okay, well, obviously this is very simple and it's going to take us a lot less time, so we'll just charge you X. But we're always hoping in the relationship that we really want people to do the marketing strategies, because that's really where the income comes from, that you have a residual on a monthly basis for the work that you do.
Right. And explain to me the benefits of that, because as a digital marketing company, you cover many aspects rather than a business going to a website designer and they're doing your website, then you're going to somebody else for SEO and they're doing that part, and maybe somebody else is covering the pay-per-click or the search engine marketing. What's the benefit of having one company doing that and understanding how it all works together?
I think the peace of mind for a business owner that they have one number to call, and there's often some overflow in perception anyway with what we do and then IT services. And so we have relationships with really great IT companies too, and there's this two-way interaction of referrals. And so companies will call me and say, our emails are down and this is happening. It's not really what we do, but we can refer them to someone and help them. And that's really what we want to be, is a really good, valuable resource for them. It definitely helps when we're building the site, kind of like it's a qualification process. And that's why I was saying that if we want to do an SEO for a company, we want to look at their site and review, is it responsive? Is it secure? Are these checkboxes filled that are going to lead to success or not success in the SEO kind of arena? And we want as many elements of success as possible. So if we have control to rebuild the site with a technology that we're comfortable with, on a platform we're comfortable with, we know there's not any guarantee in marketing, but we can give a better evaluation of what's going to happen, because we've been in control of more of it. So yeah, I think that's the good thing about us doing so many things, is that they don't need to have numerous conversations and get numerous people together to get their heads together and say, oh, well, when you do the brand, you really need to do this. And when you do the SEO, you really need to be aware of the platform that we're using. And there's still a lot, this always surprised me, but there's still a lot of proprietary platforms out there. And that discussion isn't had very well often. So a company comes in, they say, we're going to build a website for you. They start building the website. A business owner's invested a great deal of money and they go above budget. They're like, well, we're going to keep investing to get this website done. And then when they're done, updates cost a fortune, and they suddenly realize this is proprietary. So if we're done with this relationship, we've just invested all of this money and there's nothing that we can do with the platform. And it blows my mind that there's still so many companies doing that and they're not particularly transparent about it.
No, they're not going to give out that information unless they're asked, which is a shame. But that goes back to the relationship and the trust.
Yes.
These things are covered if you have trust as the foundation of your business and the relationship. Now, let's cover a few misconceptions then. Your website, directingdesign.com, has a wonderful resource. They've got lots of information on it with articles. One of them is what SEO is not. What kind of misconceptions, not only about SEO, but everything else, do you hear from some of your clients?
Well, you said when we opened up this interview about, pay-per-click and all these acronyms and buzzwords that go around. So what happens with a busy business owner is they're having a conversation with a friend over coffee or whatever, and the friend says, "Oh yeah, we've been doing SEO and we've been doing PPC and all this stuff." So it just sticks in their head, but it's not on its own. It's not a strategy. It's just this idea in their head that if I do this, then I'm going to be extremely successful in whatever way. And so just having these conversations, anybody in any industry needs to educate their audience and educate their clients. And hopefully not be patronizing, because a lot of people do know a great deal. A lot of business owners do have pretty good ideas about this stuff. But just to clarify with them what are realistic expectations and what SEO really is and what it's going to mean to them in the Oklahoma market, what other things they might consider doing. Because we're quite happy to say, okay, you have these staff members and they've got 5 hours extra a week that they can allocate to something. So they could do this and this, and you don't have to pay us to do it. But we're trying to be a resource for small businesses that can't really afford to hire some more staff to do this stuff, but would like it taken care of. But yeah, I think it's really just the technology, the acronyms, emails, hosting, you name it, whatever it is that is part of our arena, just clarifying for people all of these discussions or thoughts that they've had and what it will actually mean for their business.
Yeah, there's so much to do. Digital marketing, whether it's developing content or trying to rank, it's so much for a business owner to think about. All they really want to do is run their business and do what they're really good at. Talk to me, Michael, about some of the clients that you've helped over the years. I know you've been in business for 19 years, so you've got to have some stories of somebody that sticks out in your mind that, they came to you with a problem. How were you able to solve that problem, and what was the outcome for that company?
Sometimes the problem is relatively simple from the standpoint that they've hired an SEO company in the past. They thought that they had clarification of expectations, but then their expectations weren't met. And sometimes my expectations are different than the client's too, because I'll say, well, we've been doing this and the traffic wasn't exactly what I hoped for. And they say, well, we're ranked really well and that was the number one thing that we wanted, but obviously we want more than that. We want qualified sales leads and stuff. So there's a local chapter of the American Marketing Association here, and I used to be on the board for the American Marketing Association, and they have like an award that they give that's metric based. So a lot of other awards with design, they're just really aesthetics. It's a nice design. You've won an award because it looks really great. But their awards are always metric based. So it's basically, can you show us what the client wanted, how much they were willing to invest, and then what the result was. And so we've won a couple of awards through the American Marketing Association where we put forth some of these construction companies. So one was a local home builder that largely did custom homes. And so the custom home experience is a little bit different than just having inventory on the street that people can buy. So we wanted to make that about the experience and then get more people of a particular income aware of this particular home builder and aware of their skills and the craftsmanship and stuff like that. That was very successful. And then I mentioned earlier the heat and air company. They came to me, and there was a transition happening with Yellow Pages. Basically Yellow Pages was struggling because nobody was using the Yellow Pages anymore with the power of Google. And so they had launched their own kind of digital marketing company, but unfortunately they used the same strategy that they did with the Yellow Book. So, somebody meets you once a year, they talk about what contract is, what they're going to do, and then you never see them again for a year. Well, I don't feel like digital marketing works that way, and the business owners really want to feel like their investment was a sound investment. So with the heat and air company, I think we've been doing their digital for about 5 years, and they renew every year, and they pay for the year up front, which is great. And we give kind of a small discount for companies that want to pay for the year up front. But they know that we've got the track record now. They know that every time we have this, the annual meeting is a big meeting, but we have monthly meetings as well. At the annual meeting, we say, this is what we've done this year. This is what we need to change with the website. This is what we think will change with the strategy this year now that we've got some traction. And so they feel that we've been very successful, and we feel that we've been very successful. And we won an award for their marketing as well.
Well, congratulations. There's definitely a lot of comfort in knowing somebody capable is handling your digital marketing strategy. And, we have talked a lot about the relationship and that being paramount to success with the communication, as well as having that trust between yourself and the company. Now, Michael, if somebody wants to reach out to you that's listening to this, what is the best way for them to do that?
The best way, honestly, because I'm such an email fanatic, is through my email. They can email me directly at michael@directingdesign.com if they have any questions about if they have a strategy in place right now and they don't think that it's meeting their expectations, or if they want to start something new. That's a great way to reach me. People can also call me, although what's happening a lot lately is, for some reason, spam companies have worked out that if they put a local number, so if they use an Oklahoma number, you're more likely to answer. So a lot of times, unfortunately, I'm letting calls go to voicemail, and so I can see whether it's spam or not. But people are welcome to call me. My number is 405-474-2555. And please do leave a message, because I will get back to you. But like I said, I'm getting hit with so much spam lately that it's a little frustrating.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the problem. I get the same, and I let it go to voicemail most of the time too. So email tends to be better for me also. But Michael Hutchinson, he is the owner of Directing Design Inc. at directingdesign.com in Oklahoma City. Thank you very much for being my guest on the Trust Factor Radio today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
And to our listening audience, if you like what you hear, hit that like button and share, and we'll see you next time on the show.
You've been listening to the Trust Factor Radio with Neil Howe. To learn about the resources mentioned in the show and to listen to past episodes, go to thetrustfactorradio.com. To get a copy of the book, The Trust Factor, go to thetrustfactorbook.com. If you are ready to act now and build your authority, credibility, and trust, schedule a consultation with Neil at theauthorityarchitect.com.